Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for joining us for session 2 of the Canva Basics webinar series. Today, we were going to have ageneral, graphic designer at the Berwyn Development Corporation, lead us through part 2 of this series, where she's going to dive in to the principles of design using Canva. Before we pass it off to Ali, I am going to go ahead and give a brief overview. I guess I should introduce myself first, sorry. My name is Paola Garibay. I'm project manager on the economic development team here at the Berwyn Development Corporation. And I want to talk to you briefly about the Cook County Small Business Force today and how we can support your business. Ali? Thank you. So the Cook County Small Business Force is an organization within Cook County that is comprised of a network of business support organizations who are subject matter experts, trusted partners across Cook County that have the main goal of supporting small businesses. We do this through a network of, as I mentioned, organizations who they might be industry specific, like the Illinois Restaurant Association, the Women's Business Development Center, who is more of a regional partner, or the Berwyn Development Corporation, who is small but mighty. We'll go on to the next slide, please. Cook County Small Business Force. So how do we support your business? We do this through a variety of ways. The number one is business advising. We want to connect with business owners across Cook County to provide tailored one-on-one expertise. If there is any area of your business that requires support, it may be marketing, maybe you need help with business planning, you need to get access to grants or a loan, we'd love to connect with you and talk about how we can get you to that goal. We offer a variety of resources. Yeah, same slide, Ali. Yeah, so we'll be here for a minute. We offer a variety of resources, and that is a resource library that you can find on the cookcountysmallbiz.org website. Here you can find everything like templates for a cash flow analysis for your business, to a template to creating a business plan. And you also have access to over 50 partners within the Cook County Small Business Source who may be more locally near your business, where you can get access to these resources. We also host events. These are more in-depth knowledge on topics important to small business owners, like today's webinar on Canva. And we also host in-person events. So those are also free events that you can access through the Cook County Small Biz org website. And last but not least, access to capital. We do some legwork in looking for programs that you may be eligible for and sharing those, be it through a newsletter or one of the partner websites. We do the work in compiling all these resources to have you get access to a one-stop shop at the cookcountysmallbiz.org website, where you can get access to grants, business advising, and resources for your business. Next slide, please. So I mentioned business support organizations, and that is what the Berwyn Development Corporation is. We are just one of many. As you'll see some logos on the screen here, you may recognize they are trusted, well-known organizations. They could be industry specific, as I mentioned, the Illinois Restaurant Association, for example. They are sometimes local, like the BDC, or they're more regional, statewide, like the Illinois Hispanic Chamber of Commerce or the Women's Business Development Center. And I think that is it, Ali. Next. All right, so if anyone is interested in learning more about business advising, I will send my contact information in the follow-up. But for now, I'd like to introduce Ali General, graphic designer at the Berwyn Development Corporation, who will be leading us through today's webinar. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, well, hi guys. I hope you're having a great election day. If you haven't voted already, I highly recommend doing that. But let's get into why we are actually here. Again, my name is Ali General. I am the graphic designer and marketing coordinator with the Berwyn Development Corporation. And we're just going to go through a little introduction in case you weren't here for the first webinar. I have a specialty in graphic design. My degree is in advertising, but it was focused on media presentation and design. So I have experience with print, digital, social media, web, you name it, I've done it. And I do love to help. So exactly what Paula was just saying, if you guys want to reach out to me individually, one-on-one, we can go over different things in graphics. If there's something that's not covered here that you would like to go more in depth with. And just a nice little reminder that everyone can design, it just takes a little bit of practice. So we're going to hop into the presentation. So for today, we're going to be focusing on design principles along with some Canva apps to help you go over those design principles. The goal of this is just to help you be more intentional with your designs and begin utilizing them within your graphics for more effective marketing. And as we dive into each principle, I'll also share with you the add-ons or apps that are included in Canva that I feel would be useful while you are designing.
Allie, before you jump in,
Yeah.
sorry to interrupt you. I did just drop a message in the chat. Allie's going to cover a lot of great material today and do some hands-on examples. If anyone has questions as we go through this presentation, please put them in the chat. We'd like to reserve questions to the end of the presentation. Thank you.
Thank you for that. All right, we're going to start off with a general overview of 7 design principles. Just a note that every designer will go anywhere between 5 to 12 principles while explaining design principles. No one is right or wrong. It's simply just a preference or how they learned. Also note, while designing, you will never use just one design principle. Every graphic has a mixture and many times incorporate all 7 in some capacity. Um, Throughout this, you'll also learn a lot while I'm explaining that just how those design principles will go together. Some of them work hand in hand seamlessly, and you'll kind of pick up on that throughout the presentation. So first, we're going to start off with emphasis. Emphasis helps your target audience or viewer focus on the most important parts of your graphic first. For example, your hook or your call to action, that's where we want the emphasis to make sure that the most important information is getting out there as easily as possible. The second one is proportion, which helps create balance through harmonious compositions. The approach is to help with simplicity and not overwhelming the target audience with too much information gathered without clear differentiation. For example, if you're trying to emphasize one thing, but every single font is the same size, it's going to be hard to do that without proportion. Repetition focuses on the overall unity of a graphic. This goes for fonts and elements used. Repeating the same 2 to 3 fonts across the graphic allows for more repetition and for you to easily look through all of the information without being overwhelmed. This also goes for different elements, so visual elements, if you're including something, just repeating those same elements instead of doing a bunch of different looks and feels. Balance ensures the focus of balance ensures the focus of the viewer doesn't completely gravitate towards one area of the graphic. So for example, having elements spread throughout the design rather than having all of the information on one side with nothing visual on the other. By having elements evenly spread, you create a visually appealing design with absorbable information for your viewer. Contrast is probably a word that all of us have heard quite a few times before. This principle creates visual interest through contrasting elements, such as fonts or contrasting colors. Going back to the second grade a little bit with that one. This is an element that has infinite possibilities and is one I personally love to use. It's an easy way to start gaining an understanding of design principles. And by utilizing it, you can still really keep that simple design feel. Movement is a principle that allows you to help guide your viewer throughout your design depending on what you want them to see first versus last. So if you look over on the left, you'll notice under movement, you're obviously going to start at that biggest circle and you are automatically, subconsciously going to be drawn to the smallest circle based on the way that it was designed. And if you attended the first webinar I hosted back in September, this is something that I regularly talk about in terms of hierarchy, which kind of goes hand in hand with movement. And last but certainly not least is white space, which is exactly what it sounds like. This principle focuses on the importance of proper spacing and works with all of the other design principles. No matter what, you're always going to need a proper amount of space between elements, just not too much. And mastering this principle helps with balance, movement, proportion, and emphasis very well. So now we're going to jump into 3 of the design principles at once: emphasis, proportion, and repetition. First is emphasis. This principle focuses your design again on one main aspect in order to get your message to your viewer in the fastest way possible. In the example on the left, you'll notice that the emphasis would be on the knight instead of the 3 pawns. As it stands alone, it's a little bit larger and you will automatically be drawn to that part of the graphic first, which is exactly what emphasis wants to accomplish. Second is proportion. Proportion is the visual size or weight of the elements within your design. This strongly correlates with alignment and balance, which I'll explain a little bit later. And third is repetition. Repetition is exactly what it sounds like. This principle focuses on utilizing the elements of your design with intention, such as using the same color scheme, fonts, or graphic elements, like the example on the left, which is just a bunch of Coca-Cola bottles. So really it is one element used multiple times or repeated multiple times to create a smiley face. Now we're going to hop over to Canva and look at some apps that I feel like go really well with those three principles. So we're going to cover type gradient, type craft, and type extrude. Alrighty. So first up is going to be type gradient. You'll notice on every single app that I'm going through on the bottom left-hand corner, I am pointing out what I feel like it is good for. This one in particular, I feel like is great for emphasis or contrast. Not something that we want to overuse, but it is a great option. So you're going to go to the left-hand side of Canva, click on apps, and here is where you're going to type in type gradient. It will show up. It's this one right here with a G and the line through it. So you're going to click on it, and all of the tools for this specific app is going to be on the left-hand side. So right here at the top is going to be what you are creating. You get a nice little view of it, and then underneath is main text. So we're going to put in welcome. You can also choose the font. So by clicking on font, you'll be able to choose whatever you want. This one looks fun. Go back. Font has now been changed. And then over here are the gradient colors. Things to note with this, when you click on one, you're going to be able to mess around with it, see whichever color you want, or even include the hex number if that is something that you have. If you're keeping up with your brand colors, I highly recommend doing that. And then also note that if you click anywhere, it's going to add an additional point. So you're not limited to just 2 or 3 different colors. You can really create an entire rainbow, which is really fun to mess with. And then if you go back up to where you're viewing it, by messing with these points, you're actually able to change the way the gradient is. So this is, again, just something kind of fun to mess around with. It is really great for emphasis. And once you're happy with the way that it looks, you click add to design, and it's automatically going to be put onto your Canva file. Next up is going to be type craft. I think that this one is great for emphasis and movement. Here you can see that we created a little bit of a wave, and I'm going to show you guys how we could do that. So again, left-hand side, click on apps. This one is type craft, one word, and it is the only option. So with typecraft, we're again going to change the text. This is what it is going to say. So we're going to do welcome again. Again, you can click any font that you would like, search through it, go back, and then under here is where the magic happens. So when you scroll down and you see this little view of what it looks like, you'll be able to actually manipulate it in any way that you want. These are the amount of points that you are given. You don't have the ability to create more, but you are able to create some really fun stuff with this. So again, if we're doing a little bit of the wave look, that's what we're going to leave it with. And then again, just click the purple button, add element to design, and it is automatically going to go over there. This one is really cool too, especially if you have an element that maybe it's like a wave or a swoosh. You can actually create it so that it matches that. And it's really fun. Another one to note with this, I know that this is a big look recently in design, is kind of just making it look like it bubbles out. And then when you do update element, it's just going to automatically switch it. So make sure you copy and paste if that is something that you want to create multiple of them and you don't want to lose your last progress. Just make sure you copy paste, but it is fun and it updates automatically, but you're going to have to edit whatever you need on the left-hand side. Then the last app for right now is going to be Type Extrude, which creates this shadowy look. Again, I think it's great for emphasis for this reason, but then movement as well, depending on how you're going to be utilizing it. So again, we're just going to go back to the apps, do Type Extrude. Oh, there we go. Type Extrude is going to be this one with the yellow E and the green background. So you're going to click on that. Again, you have the nice little view right here of whatever the text is that you're creating. We're going to do welcome again, just to keep it on track. Again, you could click whatever font. It was just Halloween, so this one is speaking to me right now. And then here you're going to have the little view of what it looks like currently. You can edit both colors, so the outline and the actual lettering itself. So we're gonna do this cute little pink and maroon. I want the thickness to be up a little bit. The angle, I want it to change. And then here is really fun because you can just limitless possibilities. And then you're gonna do the same thing, add to design. Again, just like the last one that we looked at, if you were to change any parts of this and just click update element, you would be able to do exactly that, update the element. So here we go. And then that's Type Extrude. So you're able to create a nice little shadowy effect, which is really, really fun. Next up for design principles, we are going to talk about balance and alignment. Like I said earlier, these two heavily lead into proportion. And for balance, I like to imagine the yin and yang symbol. They are even and carry the same amount of visual weight. So whenever you're in doubt, if you're looking at a graphic and you don't know if you feel like it's balanced, think about the yin and yang symbol. And if it doesn't give you that same feeling or brain tickle, it might be a little off balanced. So you can mess around with it a little bit more. And then alignment helps with this as it's doing just that, aligning all of the elements. So make sure that all of the elements of your design are aligned. That in particular is vital in helping the viewer be guided throughout your graphic rather than bouncing around. So when you look on the left side here of alignment, where things are a little bit more chaotic, you're going to spend a little bit more time there. Your mind's a little bit more jumbled. Whereas when you go to the right-hand side, everything is balanced because it is aligned perfectly. So equal space between everything, and then really place like a little bit of a symmetry game here. Alignment is a huge thing and probably one of the easiest design principles to incorporate. So just always make sure that things are as aligned as they possibly can be, whether it's center alignment, left justified, right justified. Next up is contrast. This is a theory I believe a lot of people are aware of, but this is just talking about two contrasting elements, whether it be colors like the yin and yang symbol or contrasting colors. For instance, on the left-hand side, you have a little Batman penguin graphic with black and yellow. So that's a huge contrast right there, but you're able to make out those two graphics because of it. And then you can also do this with font. So on the top here, you're going to see that I have a complex and a simple font. This is something, especially in Canva templates, I have noticed to be a huge theme is using contrast within fonts. And it is personally one of my all-time favorite ways of adding this design principle. If you have a copy of the Berwyn magazine, you go to any of the pages, any titles, I'm using contrast no matter what with thin and bold fonts. But you can do the same exact thing with complex and simple fonts. Complex fonts just means script, cursive. Simple is just exactly that, this more sans serif look. And then most fonts on Canva do have a font family. So if you want to play with that more thin and bold look, just choose a font family with a lot of different weighted fonts. And again, it's just a way to keep an overall simple design, but just add a little bit of visual interest to it. Now we're going to go over some more apps on Canva. These are the last two apps I'm going to cover today. It's going to be the Frame Maker and the Bitly or QR code generator. So back over here. The Frame Maker, I think, is something that is really beginner friendly and it just is a lot of fun overall. This one is great for balance or contrast. So I'm going to show you exactly how you can incorporate this. Again, you're going to go over to apps. We're going to search Frame Maker, and it's going to be the top one right here. So we're just going to go over the tools that you're able to use before we actually get into designing this little graphic right here. At the top, you're going to notice that you have the frame that you are actually creating. You can drag any of these points. You can also add grid columns. So if you want it to be a little bit more, if you want to have a little bit more options, I would say, you can do this one. And then also at the bottom, you are able to go through all of these, and then you're going to be able to pick, like, if you want a hexagon or a square, whatever it may be. But no matter what, you're going to be able to manipulate those points a little bit up here. So like if you like wanted to create a kite or something, you can add it and shrink it down, whatever you would like to do. One thing to also note with Frame Maker, though, as of right now, there's no way of getting a curve. It's going to be all straight edges. So that is probably one of the only limits that you're really going to have with this tool. So here, again, we're just going to create what I have with the Visit Us Today graphic. So this is what I want. I want half of the graphic to be the photo. So I'm going to add this to the design. We're going to make this a little bit larger so it fits the border that I've created. And then here is your actual frame. In order to get a photo, you can either drag and drop from your desktop, or you can go all the way up, and where we have uploads, we have a bunch of different images. So I'm going to click random image, drag it over, and then there we go. Again, if you double click this, you're going to be able to mess around with it a little bit more, so you can adjust the photo in the frame, which is great. And then I'm actually just going to copy these elements to show you guys a cute little graphic that you can create. If it wants to work with me. So over here, then I'm just going to resize it. This graphic in particular, great with contrast and balance. So that's just something that I mean that all the design principles really go hand in hand, and you, without even realizing it, you're actually going to be using multiple at once. So that's the frame maker. Lots and lots of fun. Now the Bitly QR code, which is one that is going to be huge for anyone that's creating posters, you have events, you really want to move your viewer from your graphic over to a certain website, form, whatever it may be. So one thing to note with this is, depending on what you are using the QR code for, just be cognizant of that. So if you are creating an Instagram graphic, for example, a QR code might not be the best option for you, simply because viewers are going to be looking at that graphic on their phone. So they're not going to have a phone to scan that QR code. Whereas if you're doing print flyers, a QR code is great because whoever's walking by is probably going to have their phone. They're going to be able to whip out their camera and then immediately go to that QR code. So if you're doing something that's more for the digital space, I would say try and stick with a Bitly shortened link. This will just take whatever size link and really shorten it down so it doesn't take as much room up on your graphic. But with Bitly in specific, when you are using it here, you do need an account. So we're actually, I might not be signed into Bitly, but here, oh, there we go. So we have all of the QR codes that have been previously made using our Bitly account with the BDC. So whenever you create a QR code or a short link, they will be saved here. So make sure that you are reusing them. Don't max out your quota with the QR codes, because you do have a quota as well with Bitly. So once you're logged in and you go create QR code, you'll notice here that we have 2 QR code and short links left. So that'll automatically create a QR code and a short link, and then 9 short links left. So depending on your Bitly account, but specifically with Canva, that's what you're limited to. So it makes it a little bit harder. But if you go into apps on Canva and you just search up QR code, there are so many different apps that you can use to create a QR code, short links, not so much. And then you can also use Adobe Express, which I know offers free QR codes. So you can just Google Adobe Express QR code generator and it'll pop up. You'll be able just to copy your link exactly like this right here. So you take your link to wherever you want the QR code or the link to be shortened to. You're going to put it in the destination box right here. Click whichever option you would like and then generate it. And it'll come out with something like this. And then it'll also help with your little shortened link. So that'll pop up there as well. Um, yeah. And then again, like I said, social graphics, I recommend using a link, whereas print, absolutely go for a QR code if you are trying to direct them to a certain link. Just a few more design principles for you guys. So next up is movement. Movement is a principle that helps guide your viewer's eye. Looking at the example here, you're going to notice that the stars guide from the left to the right when you're looking at the Olympic graphic here. So you're going to be going from the left to the right with that, but it also mimics the look of when a runner gets caught. So if you imagine the flash in a movie and you see those lines behind him, that's exactly what this is trying to mimic here, that movement of a runner. It's also a great example, or sorry, another great example is what we looked at originally in the overview. So starting from the biggest circle to the smallest circle, it is just automatically guiding you through that graphic, which is exactly what we need from movement. And then last but not least is white space. I think many designers would argue that this is probably the most important of all design principles, and pretty hard to master at times. So don't get discouraged if you feel like you're not getting it the first time that you're trying to design a graphic. White space really helps focus on spacing and properly ensuring you create a design that doesn't become too crowded with information or elements that your objective behind the graphic becomes lost. What I mean by that is really what you see in the don't do graphic. There's no white space. That's exactly what you do not want to do. It becomes a little bit overwhelming. You're not exactly sure where you're supposed to start versus end, what's the important information, things like that. And that's exactly what white space is supposed to be utilized for. On the opposite side of the spectrum, you'll see that the do is the Coca-Cola Open Happiness ad. Obviously, these are used for two different things. One is a very basic ad, and everyone knows Coca-Cola, whereas the one below is more of an event type of thing where you're going to need to include a little bit more information, which is totally understandable. But with the Coca-Cola Open Happiness, it just really shows that although it almost feels empty when white space is properly used, it doesn't. It just has that good balance overall, nice contrast in this one actually as well. So my recommendation when learning how to work with white space for the first time is to choose 3 elements you know you want to include and arrange them in a way that you first emphasize your call to action. Get it? Emphasize, one of the design principles. Second is provide information proportionately, another design principle. And then third, enhance your design with visual elements such as falling leaves. If you want to do multiple falling leaves, that's repetition right there. And just for some recap and takeaways, with design principles, they should be used in every graphic to create something intentional. And then more than one principle can and should be applied to get your message across. Like I just said, when trying to understand white space with the 3 elements, what I just took you through, I believe that was anywhere from 3 to 4 different design principles within one graphic just to get you guys going. And then with Canva apps, they are useful when it comes to implementing certain design principles and can also help with your overall marketing goals, especially the first 3 that we looked at. I feel like that's huge with emphasis, and especially when starting to design things, that's something that you really want to focus on. And with the Canva apps, the options really are like limitless. We just skimmed the surface, but I highly recommend looking through all of the Canva apps. You'll see different things that you can just have fun and mess around with and enjoy your next design on Canva. Just to let you guys know, this is a webinar part of it's a three-part webinar series, excuse me. The next one will be announced soon. We're hoping to do it within the first 2 weeks of January. So not until next year, but very, very close. Gives you some time with the holidays and everything coming up. But that one will be focusing on enhancing your marketing using Canva. So using more of those tools. And diving in a little bit deeper with all things Canva related. Everything to get into contact with me is at the bottom there. So we have the BDC phone number, my email. If you want to connect a little bit more individually, I would love that. I would love to help you guys out, answer more personalized questions and things like that. But that is all I have for you guys today. So I'm going to stop sharing my screen and we can go over any questions that you might have.
Thank you, Allie. I sure learned a lot today. I don't think I should be let into the Canva account because the couple times I have tried to, I probably create something that ends up looking like that car show flyer that has way too much going on. I'm going to go ahead and stop the recording now as well. So anyone who would like to ask questions can do so.